and welcome. Tonight, it's the end of an era as Britain's longest reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, dies at the age of 96. She's been under medical supervision at her home in Scotland after doctors became concerned for her health. Tributes pour in for the royal family from all over the world over the death of Queen Elizabeth II. Former President of Senate Adolphus Wagbara appointed acting chairman, Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party, following resignation of Walid Jibril. River State Governor Nyesom Wike insists party's chairman, Iyorchia Ayu, must quit position. And President Muhammadu Buhari assures Nigerians that the armed forces will continue to sustain their operational tempo as he declares open the 12th Nigerian Navy Games in Lagos.
And on business news tonight, National Bureau of Statistics says total foreign trade value declines to 12.84 trillion naira in the second quarter of 2022.
On sports news tonight, Chelsea appoints Graham Potter as new manager on a 5-year contract following the shock sacking of Thomas Tuchel.
From Abuja, Northeast Development Commission paints a scary picture in the Northeast region, claims that terrorists have killed 40% of teachers in the last 12 years.
The world is mourning as Britain's longest-serving monarch, Queen Elizabeth, today took her last breath at the age of 96 after reigning for 70 years. She died peacefully this afternoon at her Scottish estate, where she had spent much of the summer. Simon Pusey in this special edition of Around the World in 5 brings us the details about the Queen's demise.
Queen Elizabeth II, the UK's longest-serving monarch, has died at Balmoral, aged 96, after reigning for 70 years. In a statement released earlier, Buckingham Palace said the Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon. The King and the Queen Consort will remain at Balmoral this evening and will return to London tomorrow. The formal notice that bore the same words attached to the gates of Buckingham Palace earlier, and the flags at Buckingham Palace and 10 Downing Street were both lowered to half-mast. The Queen, who had just on Tuesday received the new Prime Minister Liz Truss and Boris Johnson at her official residence, was being cared for by doctors who were concerned for her health. King Charles III released a statement soon after the news broke, saying, "The death of my beloved mother, Her Majesty the Queen, is a moment of the greatest sadness for me and all members of my family. We mourn profoundly the passing of a cherished sovereign and a much-loved mother. I know her loss will be deeply felt throughout the country, the realms and the Commonwealth, and by countless people around the world. During this period of mourning and change, my family and I will be comforted and sustained by our knowledge of the respect and deep affection in which the Queen was so widely held." She was the world's oldest and longest-serving head of state. Came to the throne following the death of her father, King George VI, on February the 6th, 1952, when she was just 25. Her tenure as head of state spanned post-war austerity, the transition from empire to Commonwealth, the end of the Cold War, and the UK's entry into and withdrawal from the European Union.
And I'm going to be speaking to President, but we think that the last time the monarch attended a cabinet was in 1781.
Her reign spanned 15 prime ministers, starting with Winston Churchill, born in 1874, and including Liz Truss, born 101 years later in 1975, and appointed by the Queen earlier this week. She held weekly audiences with her prime minister throughout her reign. The new Prime Minister Liz Truss gave a TV address outside Downing Street, saying the news was a huge shock to the nation and the world.
We are all devastated by the news that we have just heard from Balmoral. The death of Her Majesty the Queen is a huge shock to the nation and to the world. Queen Elizabeth II was the rock on which modern Britain was built. our country has grown and flourished under her reign. Britain is the great country it is today because of her. She ascended the throne just after the Second World War. She championed the development of the Commonwealth from a small group of 7 countries to a family of 56 nations, spanning every continent of the world. We are now a modern, thriving, dynamic nation. Through thick and thin, Queen Elizabeth II provided us with the stability and the strength that we needed. She was the very spirit of Great Britain.
This was the scene earlier outside Buckingham Palace, people singing God Save the Queen.
Good afternoon, everybody. All right.
And the news spread quickly around the world, here interrupting the White House press briefing.
Okay, so that's been confirmed. Okay, the royal family. So, as I said earlier, you know, our hearts and our thoughts go to the family members of the Queen, goes to the people of the United Kingdom.
The palace says...
Here, Canada's CBC reporting the Queen's death.
The Queen died peacefully at Balmoral this afternoon.
And here, Russian TV breaking the news. Earlier, her family gathered at her Scottish estate after concerns grew. All the Queen's children travelled to Balmoral near Aberdeen after doctors placed the Queen under medical supervision. With her death, her eldest son, Charles, the former Prince of Wales, will lead the country in mourning as the new king and head of state for 14 Commonwealth realms. Queen Elizabeth II, the UK's longest-serving monarch, who has died at Balmoral, aged 96.
And after ruling Britain for 70 years, Queen Elizabeth II is now being mourned by the world as tributes pour in from world leaders and dignitaries. France's Emmanuel Macron led the tributes, remembering a kind-hearted queen who was a friend of France. And former U.S. President Barack Obama said the Queen had captivated the world with a reign defined by grace, elegance, and a tireless work ethic. Current U.S. President Joe Biden described the Queen as more than a monarch, saying she defined an era. Queen Elizabeth II met 14 U.S. presidents during her reign. The Queen also reigned during the leadership of 12 Canadian prime ministers. Speaking shortly after the news of her passing was announced, an emotional Prime Minister Justin Trudeau said she had an obvious, deep and abiding love for Canadians. President Cyril Ramaphosa has, on behalf of the government and the people of South Africa, expressed his profound and sincere condolences to His Majesty King Charles III on the passing of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth II of the United Kingdom of Great Britain and Northern Ireland. Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi recalled his memorable meetings with the monarch during 2 UK visits. Antonio Guterres, the UN Secretary-General, in his tribute, said Queen Elizabeth was a reassuring presence throughout decades of sweeping change, including the decolonization of Africa and Asia and the evolution of the Commonwealth. For Pope Francis, he said he was deeply saddened by the death of Queen Elizabeth II and offers his condolences to her family and her successor, King Charles III. Meanwhile, Queen Elizabeth II's reign is one that will be remembered for a long time and for several reasons. Our next report takes a look at the life and times of Elizabeth, the 25-year-old princess who became Britain's most iconic monarch.
Queen Elizabeth II, the UK's longest-serving monarch, had a tenure that spanned post-war austerity, the transition from empire to Commonwealth, the end of the Cold War, and the UK's entry into and withdrawal from the European Union.
To increase life chances for the most disadvantaged and to strengthen national defences.
She was born in Mayfair, London, as the first child of the Duke and Duchess of York. Her father acceded the throne in 1936 upon abdication of his brother, King Edward VIII, making Elizabeth the heir presumptive. When her father died in February 1952, Elizabeth became Queen Regent. At the age of 25, she reigned as a constitutional monarch through major political changes, such as troubles in Northern Ireland, the decolonisation of Africa, and the UK's accession to the European communities and withdrawal from the European Union. In 1953, she was crowned at Westminster Abbey in the first major televised international event, and sales of TV sets surged as people gathered in their front rooms to watch this ceremony. Her reign spanned 14 prime ministers, starting with Winston Churchill, born in 1874, and including Liz Truss, the country's new prime minister, born 101 years later in 1975, and appointed by the Queen earlier this week. She had also met with 14 US presidents. Her reign spanned 13 Nigerian presidents. She visited Nigeria twice between January and February of 1956 and in December of 2003 to attend the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting. Years after she granted Nigeria her independence in 1960, though retained as head of state and Queen of Nigeria until 1963. In 1977, the Queen toured Britain and the Commonwealth for her Silver Jubilee, reiterating her vows of service. The celebration was a ray of light in a period of economic gloom, industrial decline, and a series of industrial disputes. The lowest point of her reign was in 1992 when her first son, Prince Charles, separated from his wife Diana following a tell-all book. Her second son, Prince Andrew, also separated from his wife, and her only daughter, Princess Anne, divorced her husband, while Windsor Castle was seriously damaged by fire. Then there was Diana's death in 1997. Things brightened again when the Golden Jubilee came along in 2002, and Britain once again showed their support for the monarchy. In 2012, the Queen once again toured every region of Britain ahead of a 4-day party marking her Diamond Jubilee, while other royals made visits across the Commonwealth. The monarch followed up with a starring role at the London Olympics, appearing alongside James Bond, actor Daniel Craig, at the opening ceremony. When the coronavirus struck in 2020, the Queen was forced into isolation, but she continued to carry out her engagements online. She braved through the passing of her beloved Prince Philip and his funeral in April 2021. Fears for her health grew later after she spent a night in hospital out of an abundance of caution. Perhaps the last time the Queen was seen was at the celebration of her Platinum Jubilee in June this year, when she appeared on the balcony of Buckingham Palace for a few minutes and waved, much to the delight of the crowd. And after 70 years of service, Her Majesty, loved by Britons and around the world, passed away peacefully at her home in Balmoral Castle. Amarachi Ubani, Channel Television News.
Happy and sad moments there. In part 2, after the break, we'll be speaking with the Nigerian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom over the passing of Queen Elizabeth. Plus, President Muhammadu Buhari assures Nigerians that the armed forces will continue to sustain their operational tempo as he declares open the 12th Nigerian Navy Games in Lagos. Please stay with us. Welcome back. If you just joined us, you're watching the news at 10 live on Channels Television Lagos. Here's a reminder of our top stories. It's the end of an era as Britain's longest reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, dies at the age of 96. She had been under medical supervision at her home in Scotland after doctors became concerned for her health. Tributes pour in for the royal family from around the world over the death of Queen Elizabeth II. Former Senate President Adolfo Swabara is appointed acting chairman, Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party following resignation of Wale Jibril. Rivers State Governor Nyesom Wike, however, says the party's chairman, Iyorchia Ayu, must quit the position. And President Muhammadu Buhari assures Nigerians that the armed forces will continue to sustain their operational tempo as he declares open the 12th Nigerian Navy Games in Lagos. For more on the mood and atmosphere in the United Kingdom over the death of Queen Elizabeth II, we head over to London, where the Nigerian High Commissioner to the United Kingdom, Sharafa Ishola, joins me now. Ambassador Ishola, thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me tonight.
Quite the news of the century. I mean, one could call it that. What were your thoughts when you heard the news today?
Well, the news was quite devastating. I was still in the office when it broke, and I was highly devastated, and I had to close down the mission to commence mourning immediately and revert to the residence. The Queen, like we always say, is the Queen of the world, goes beyond Britain. Nigeria, being a member of the Commonwealth, put us in a position that we really had a lot of good things from the Queen, right from our independence till now. I vividly recall my presentation of letter of credence, where the Queen was quite engaging, and I wonder at that age that she could still engage. And having listened to her last Tuesday when she appointed the new Prime Minister, Liz Truss, it was a real shock and disbelief that the person we saw 48 hours ago, quite active, is now gone. And that means a lot to both the citizens of the UK, the residents, and even in the entire world. It's a sad moment, and the Nigeria High Commission and officials of the missions have joined other British citizens in mourning.
Indeed, and essentially support for the monarchy in the UK has remained consistently high, as did her popularity. But for you, tributes have been pouring in around the world. What would be your fondest memories of her?
Yes, given my encounter with the Queen last November, I'm aware of our interest in the greater Commonwealth, where the Commonwealth of nations of the world were born together. And she has the belief that the Commonwealth should be strengthened as a multilateral organization. The Queen thinks about Britain, but much more about the whole Commonwealth. And you can imagine she growing the Commonwealth from a Commonwealth of 12 nations to 56 nations of the world. Personally, I strongly believe that we really lost a world leader. It goes beyond Britain. And this loss is, even though it's irreparable, but it's also irreplaceable, because to stay in to stay in the shoes of a 70-year-old monarch on the throne, it's not going to be easy. And given the fact that the whole, the entire royal family right now is in mourning mode, just like Britain, so it's quite devastating. And she will just be remembered for building peace among nations of the world, The Queen, as I know her, is also interested in the common man. We had a Queen who will always relate with the low and mighty of the society, but much more concerned about the plight of the common people. She's engaged in so many areas affecting humanity, aware of her interests in the green energy. She's been involved in various COP projects, which is being handled largely by the present King Charles. Way back in Kigali, we still had emerging markets programs and various programs that the Queen is interested in. So it's really going to be a big vacuum. But I have no doubt in my mind that King Charles III will step into that shoes and be able to take over from where the Queen has stopped.
Our thoughts and prayers are with the royal family at this time. We'd like to thank you, Ambassador Sharafa Ishola. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with me on the News at 10.
Thank you for having me.
Well, we're back home now, where we move to politics. The former Senate President Adolphus Wabara has emerged the new chairman of the Board of Trustees of the People's Democratic Party. His appointment follows the resignation of the former BOT chairman, Walid Jibril, this afternoon. Mr. Walid's decision is believed to be part of efforts to settle the crisis in the party and to appease members of the PDP from the south who were calling for the resignation of the national chairman of the party, Senator Iyorchia Ayu.
Critical decisions must be made by the People's Democratic Party, and members of the Board of Trustees are arriving the party's national secretariat in Abuja for a meeting, the first time after the party's convention. The meeting is to hold behind closed doors, and Mr. Walid Jibril arrives to chair the gathering as chairman of the BOT. But no sooner had the meeting commenced than words about his resignation began to circulate, and a video of him announcing his resignation is also made available to journalists by some party members.
Me, Senator Walid Jibril, I'm stepping down as the chairman of BOT, please. I'm stepping down to make it easier for all of us.
He is replaced by former President of the Senate, Mr. Adolphus Wabara. As the BOT meeting ends, the party's National Executive Council meeting begins, and the national chairman, Mr. Iyorchia Ayu, chairs the meeting, which is attended by the party's presidential candidate, Mr. Atiku Abubakar, former Vice President, Mr. Namadi Sambo, some present and past state governors, legislators, and other party stalwarts. The change of BOT leadership takes center stage as the meeting discusses unity.
This party is famous for settling all disagreements and going on to win elections in the past. This time is not an exception. I'm happy that the Nigerian people are interested in our party. We need to focus on the issues that worry the Nigerian people.
The acting BOT chairman, distinguished Senator Wabara, in a big family, even in micro and small family, you have family issues. What is important is how those issues are resolved. And for us in PDP, we have the mechanism, and we are working towards resolving all of those issues soonest.
The victory of the party in the 2023 general election is also discussed as the PDP National Executive Council passes vote of confidence in the Ayu-led National Working Committee, despite the calls for his resignation.
Those in favor of the motion of a vote of confidence on the Iyorchia Ayu-led National Working Committee say aye. Those against say nay. The ayes have
On his part, Mr. Atiku Abubakar says the PDP constitution must be respected by the party's members in resolving the crisis within the party.
As a political party, we have our constitution, we have our rules, we have our regulations. I want to urge that no matter the level of disagreements, our disagreements should be resolved within our constitution, within our rules, within our regulations, and within the precedents we have already set up for conflict resolution.
Senator Walid Jibrin has offered himself as a sacrificial lamb. But whether this will settle the crisis in the party is what we do not know for now. But perhaps time will tell. Emperor Simon, Channels Television News.
Well, one person who is not excited about the resignation of Senator Jibrin is River State Governor Nyesom Wike. Governor Wike says nothing short of the resignation of the party's chairman, Iyorchia Ayu, can rectify the anomaly in the party's top hierarchy. He was speaking during the inauguration of the Ahoda satellite campus of the state-owned university by Governor Seyi Makinde of Oyo State.
Ayu said if the presidential candidate comes from the north, that he will resign by the convention of our party, that the candidate of our party, the chairman of our party, will come from the south. When the North Central met in the house of Governor Bala Muhammad, Governor of Bauchi State, he said so there. When he made the caucus of the Senate, he told them that when we finish our convention on a Saturday to Sunday, the candidate of the party came to see me in my house in Abuja on Monday, around 10:30 a.m. And that is what I don't like in this country. The candidate told me, I said, listen, I want us to work together. And then he said, look, you must go. I said, why? He said, because when a candidate comes from the north, the chairman will come from the south. And I'm saying, implement what you told me. What offense have I committed? What offense have I committed? This is what he told me. I challenge the president candidate to deny this. They have today told the BOT chairman to resign. Who is talking about chairman of BOT? What is the role of the BOT? BOT is an advisory body. We have never zoned BOT. But what we are saying, the position we are talking about, which all of us agree, is the chairman of the party. As it is today, it's the presidential candidate or president and chairman of the party. The chairman of the party and the candidate or president, as the case may be, are those who will sit down and take decision. The candidate is from the north. The chairman is from the north. Who will represent the south in decision making? I will continue to fight this fight. This injustice is enough. We cannot continue to swallow this.
Away from the PDP politics, President Muhammadu Buhari has urged Nigerians to believe in the capability of the armed forces to safeguard and bring long-lasting peace and stability to the country. The president, who declared open the 12th Nigerian Navy Games today in Lagos, assured Nigerians that the armed forces will surmount the security challenges in the country.
Without fear or favor, and in conformity to the rules that govern the games, in the true spirit of sportsmanship.
The 12th Nigeria Navy Games take center stage in Lagos. President Muhammadu Buhari commissions the ultra-modern sports complex in Navy Town, Ojo, and declares the Navy Games open.
Let me now wish the Nigerian Navy a successful game throughout the 8 days. It is now my pleasure to declare the 12th Nigerian Navy Games, Lagos 2022, open.
Even Although the occasion is a sporting event, the president speaks on the security situation in the country.
Let me assure Nigerians that the armed forces would continue to sustain their operational tempo to contain the security challenges in the country. Plans are on to ensure that the security agencies put appropriate measures in place to secure the country despite the challenges.
In a similar vein, the Chief of Naval Staff, Vice Admiral Awol Gambo, pledges that the Navy will sustain the fight against crude oil theft and other maritime crimes.
Mr. President, may I therefore use this opportunity to express commitment and resolve to sustain the fight against crude oil theft and other maritime crimes.
The Lagos State Governor, Babajide Sanwo-Olu, praises the Navy for their role in securing lives and property.
The Nigerian Navy, therefore, is an important partner to us in ensuring the security of life and property of Lagosians. We will never take this partnership and support for granted. We will continue to look for ways to deepen our relationship for the peace, security, and progress of our people.
Organizers hope the Games will boost physical and military strength of Navy personnel in combating crimes. We're heading over to Abuja studio. Gloria Mozoke is standing by with more stories. Hi, Gloria. It's been quite a day today in history.
Absolutely. Thank you, Millicent. Well, here in Abuja, we begin with insecurity. Nearly 50% of teachers in the northeast region have been killed by insurgents or unaccounted for in the last 12 years. Managing Director of the Northeast Development Commission, Mohammed Goni Alkali, stated this today during the 50th session of the ministerial briefing at the State House. He revealed that the Commission has now embarked on mass training of available teachers, particularly through a recently created Education Endowment Fund set up to address the root cause of the school challenge in the Northeast region.
And of course, gentlemen of the press, good morning.
The most important thing is the peace in the region has been distorted. How do you bring back that peace? People don't believe or have trust in each other anymore. So even if the war or the insurgencies ends today, you must find a way of bringing people back together to live together again. So we're doing a lot in the area of peace building. We have our Sulu projects, Sulu is Arabic word and so forth, so that at least when the situation becomes normalized, when the social cohesion is back, people will be able to say peace will have trust. For instance, in the Northeast, over 40–50% of teachers are either being killed or something might happen to them, because the attack of the insurgency is Boko Haram, and teachers are the instrument of this so-called Boko Haram. So they are the primary target of those people. So most of them have been killed or something must happen to them, and though we need more teachers in the region. So the Commission decided to create an education endowment fund with a seed capital of 6 billion, and we agreed that whatever statutory allocation we get every year, we are going to mark it up with 10% of that, so that we will be able to tackle this education very seriously in terms of teacher education, scholarships, whatever education. And we have a board of trustees for that purpose, so that will be taken seriously and carefully by a trustee, while the Commission we do our routine activities.
Operatives of the Department of State Services, DSS, in the early hours of today raided the Desert Herald newspaper office, as well as the residence of the embattled lead negotiator for the release of the train attack hostages, Mr. Tukur Mamu, in Kaduna State. the office, which is located at the Ungwan-Rimi area of the Kaduna State capital, and the residence located at Ungwan-Dosa, also in the city center, were raided by over 50 DSS operatives at about 3 a.m. A staff of the company who did not want his name to be disclosed told our correspondents that the heavily armed DSS personnel stormed the two locations in over 20 patrol vehicles and ransacked the building, carting away laptops, phones and documents. Mahmoud, the spokesman for the Kano-based Islamic cleric Sheikh Ahmed Gumi, was arrested by DSS on Wednesday at the Malam Aminu Kano International Airport on arrival from Egypt over issues bordering on national security, especially as it relates to banditry and terrorism. Well, the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASSAN, says the federal government has failed in its economic agenda to create and preserve jobs for the Nigerian people. Well, speaking in Abuja during a protest, the national president of the association, Mr. Festus Osifo, says the inability of government to stop the brazen stealing of oil in the Niger Delta has led to the shutdown of operations of oil companies, their subsidiaries and serving firms, which has led to the laying off of thousands of their members.
Solidarity forever! Solidarity forever!
Members of the Petroleum and Natural Gas Senior Staff Association of Nigeria, PENGASSAN, are gathering at the Popular Unity Fountain in the center of Abuja to press home their demands.
Crude oil theft is a menace.
Before heading into the streets, the national president of the association states their mission.
This crude oil pumped into the pipeline, they are vandalized. So because of that, majority of them had to stop production. And because they have shut down production, the welfare of our members are being threatened, the jobs of our members are being threatened in the producing sector of the industry. They are saying that they are not making enough revenue.
The leadership of the association then proceeds to the force headquarters to present a protest letter to the Inspector General of Police. They are received by Deputy Inspector General of Police in charge of operations, Mr. Bala Senchi, who is representing the IG.
This is the first time in Nigeria history whereby the crude oil is selling above $100 per barrel, and we cannot make money as a nation. As a nation, we are still borrowing. What the government is doing is that they are putting the future of the children yet to born in jeopardy, because it will get to a time that we can no longer service that debt. It will get to a time that as a nation we are going to default. And when that happens, our naira will turn to banana. When that happens, we will need a truckload of naira to buy a loaf of bread, just as it happened in Zimbabwe. We must shout before we get to that time. God forbid.
The representative of the IG of Police promises to deliver the letter to his boss.
Thank you so much, sir. We appreciate it.
The next destination for the protesters is the NNPC Towers, which houses the Federal Ministry of Petroleum Resources. They plan to present a protest letter to the Ministry of State for Petroleum Resources. However, the Group General Manager in charge of security at the NNPC Limited, Mr. Abakaka, was on hand to receive the letter, and he promises to deliver it to the Minister. Delia Moyani, Channels Television News.
Well, that's it from the nation's capital. It's back to you, Millicent.
Thank you, Gloria. We're back in River State, where the state government has inaugurated the third satellite campus of the River State University in Ahoda local government area. Governor Wike says the project is in line with his administration's vision to drive development to the hinterlands. At the inauguration, his special guest and Governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, appreciates the governor's bold moves to do what is right to better the welfare of the citizens.
It's the inauguration of the third satellite campus of the River State University by Governor Nyesom Wike in Ahoda East local government area. And for the second consecutive day, the Governor of Oyo State, Seyi Makinde, is a special guest. The Ahoda campus will accommodate and serve the Faculty of Humanities to further grow the number of human capital in the state and the nation. Before inaugurating the school, Governor Makinde says the institution shows how the state government is committed to spread development.
So I'll say to you, my brother, more grease to your elbow, God's guidance and God's protection. And for the people of Aoda and the Ekpeye land, I'll say congratulations. Take good advantage of this project and turn the economy of this place around. It's not only developing River State, only Port Harcourt. Because when I came here as a youth corper 32 years ago, it was Bayelsa and Rivers together. And Bayelsa and Rivers together then used to be a one-city state. But now, zones are being linked. Communities are coming together. And the economy of Rivers State is moving beyond just oil. Thank you, Mr. Quality Project.
It's a dream come true seeing how the project will not only serve the people, but also empower them in the future.
What we have done is to make sure that we decentralize the campuses of the university so that to also get some kind of development in these other areas. And by this university, this campus here, you will see how here will be. Look at the road. Look at that dualization of that road. By Jonas Vega. By the time that road is finished, then you will see what Ahoda will look like.
The project is then inaugurated.
God the Son and God the Holy Spirit.
Just like other campuses, the age-long vision to accommodate more people into tertiary institutions is being actualized by the River State government.
It's now time for some business news. Here's Teniola Oyetayo.
Thanks a lot, Millicent. Welcome to Business News. Nigeria's total foreign trade has recorded a decline in the second quarter of 2022, and that's according to the National Bureau of Statistics. The latest data from the NBS shows total value was lower by about 160 billion naira in the second quarter to 12.84 trillion naira from 13 trillion naira posted in the first quarter of 2022. The report attributes the 1.2% marginal decline to a drop in import trade arising from improved trade balance. However, the value of total trade reported increased by 32% year-on-year from 9.71 trillion reported in the second quarter of 2021. And Flour Mills of Nigeria PLC has announced a dividend payment of 2 naira 15 kobo per 50 kobo ordinary shares for the financial year ended the 31st of March 2022. At the 62nd annual general meeting in Lagos, the chairman of FMN PLC, who was represented by the vice chairman, said the food processing company has a strategic goal of feeding Africa and has taken steps in that direction. The company also recorded 339.6 billion naira as revenue in the first quarter of 2022.
Taking stock of the previous business year and delivering value to shareholders is the crux of discussions at the 62nd Annual General Meeting of Flour Mills of Nigeria PLC, which is hybrid. Only 16 shareholders are physically present. Good news is in, as the company declares its dividend.
The dividend be paid on Thursday, 8th September 2022, to shareholders registered in the books of the company at the close of business on Friday, the 12th August 2022. The proposed dividend amounts to 2.15 naira per ordinary share of 50 kobo.
Its business record appears impressive, with 339.6 billion naira in revenue in the first quarter of 2022, an increase of 45.3% from 233.7 billion naira in the first quarter of 2021. It also recorded a profit before tax of 39.2 billion naira compared to 37.23 billion naira in 2021, while profit for the year is 28 billion naira. Most shareholders are happy about this progress.
Operating profits grew from 52 billion naira to 65.5 billion naira in the year under review. I observe an improved performance in the year under review because all the indices are in progression. I want to seize this opportunity to give kudos to the board and the management team for their efforts and implore them to do more.
The company also seeks to borrow 200 billion naira to fund the business more. The launch of Santi Brown Sugar and the acquisition of 71.69% in Honeywell flour mills is part of the growth trajectory.
Expansion into the sub-region and into the continent, we need to have our full footprints there also. So the acquisition, is quite strategic, and it will help us to be able to deliver what we promise our shareholders.
With 5 directors also re-elected at this meeting, Flour Mills of Nigeria PLC says despite the challenging socio-economic environment, the company will continue to deliver a strong business performance with resilience and operational excellence.
And the equities market made a rebound in today's trading session and records the first positive close in the week. Jeffrey Uzonu has the details.
Hello and welcome to Stock Market Report. It's the first positive trade for the week as the bull makes a comeback and the market gains about 28 billion naira, a little bit more than it lost yesterday, closing right there at 0.11%. The banking counter, which was absolutely responsible for yesterday's loss, has brought some positive sentiment. The index closed at more than 1%, exactly 1.07%. Now that's thanks to Fidelity Bank. It gained 17 kobo to close at 3 naira 60 kobo, and FCMB, which added about 9 kobo to have its fair price at 3 naira 30 kobo at the close of the day. However, Transcorp led the top trades right there with 31 million. On the part of recovery, at least for today, the activity chart is mixed, as you can see. But 2/3 of it in green, volume and deals. The only red is the value. Let's hope we have it better tomorrow. I'm Jeffrey Uzama. It's back to you.
And that's business news tonight. I'm Teniola Oyetayo. It's back to Millicent for the rest of the news at 10.
Thanks, Teniola. Now time for some sports news. Here's Victor Matthias.
Thank you, Millicent, and welcome to Sports News. Nigeria's Tobiloba Amusan has broken Gail Devers' 22-year-old meeting record, setting a new 12.29 seconds in the women's 100 meters hurdles at the Diamond League in Zurich, Switzerland. United States' Tia Jones finished in second place, clocking 12.40 seconds, while Jamaica's Brittany Anderson finished in third place in 12.42 seconds. The multiple record holder had broken world records in 2022 at World Athletics Championship and Commonwealth Games. Chelsea have appointed Brighton and Hove Albion manager Graham Potter as their new manager to replace Thomas Tuchel. Potter joined Chelsea a day after they sacked Tuchel, with the team 6th in the league on 10 points after 6 matches. Chelsea sacked Tuchel after they suffered a shock 1-0 defeat away to Dinamo Zagreb in their opening match of the Champions League group stage. And that's a wrap on Sports News. It's back to Millicent with the wrap of the news at 10.
Thank you, Victor. And the main news again. Tributes have been pouring in for the British royal family following the death of the country's longest reigning monarch, Queen Elizabeth II, at the age of 96. The royal family, including the incoming King Charles, his wife Camilla, Prince William, Kate, Prince Harry and Meghan, had all travelled to Balmoral to be with the Queen in her final moments. Also, President Muhammadu Buhari has joined other world leaders in paying tribute to the Queen. In a statement by his spokesman, the president said, "The story of modern Nigeria will never be complete without a chapter on Queen Elizabeth II, whom he described as a towering global personality and an outstanding leader." He said she dedicated her life to making her nation, the Commonwealth, and the entire world a better place. And just before we go, we now leave you with our viewers with a collection of pictures celebrating the life and times of Queen Elizabeth II.